Alright, it's time to start the reviews for the sci-fi, fantasy, and weird fiction extravaganza with the time machine. We start with the time machine, go back in time to read about going ahead in time, actually. Hey everyone, it's Shannon. I'm excited to finally start sharing some of my thoughts on the books that I selected for the sci-fi, fantasy, and weird fiction exploration extravaganza. And the first one I picked was The Time Machine, and I did want to pick something that's earlier. I think this might be the earliest title on my list that I hadn't read. I don't know if there's anything earlier. Actually, this is from 1895. It's written by H.G. Wells. I have to remember the authors here. That's very important to me. When I talk about books, I often talk about them without thinking about the authors, and I don't think that that's very fair. And that's one of the reasons I think it's really going to be part of this exploration is because people often authors are often associated with particular genres, and I thought that this would be a good way to find authors that I like. So there you go. H.G. Wells is the author for this one, and it really is about a time machine. Although after I've read it, I kind of feel like maybe I'm a little surprised that the title is The Time Machine, because the machine element of it isn't super well. It's relevant, but I would have called it The Time Traveler. No, I guess the time machine is good. Maybe I'll leave that for later. Anyway, so I picked it because it was an early one and also an influential one. I imagine it was the first, piece of fiction to talk about time travel, and that has come up time and time again in film. My default is still film. I went to Terminator like right away. But of course in fiction, and in books, and we have lots right now actually, even if you just think of Outlander on TV, and there's a new TV series coming out in the fall which I am stumbling on, but it's about traveling in time, although they are often about traveling back in time, whereas the time machine actually goes ahead in time. So that is one thing that's really interesting about it, and it's really centered on, it has this vibe of, I'm going to tell you a story. There is a guy who creates a time machine who gathers a bunch of people together of different disciplines. I think that's going to be another reoccurring thing in this exploration, and tells them the story of traveling through time, and would they like to see the time machine. And so it has the sort of narrative structure of, I'm going to tell you a story, which honestly is not one of my favorites. I don't know. I want to be in the story. I don't want the story told to me. But I think that's also, now we're used to a lot of first person, and I don't think this is first person. This is third person. So yeah. So what it's about is really a guy that creates a time machine, tells friends about a time machine, but it's also about what happens when he uses the time machine, and the adventure of what happens when he uses the time machine. And to be honest, it's also a lot of social commentary, which sometimes I forget, and science fiction in particular, not so much fantasy, but in science fiction, social commentary is definitely one of the driving forces of a lot of the stories. This one wasn't too heavy-handed, I felt, at least in like for the majority of the story, but it is, does go there. And I don't think that that's bad. Sometimes I get a little miffy if I feel like I'm tricked. I didn't feel like I was tricked here. I feel like you're sort of eased into it, and that's totally fine. I did enjoy the story. It was very different than I expected. I thought it would be more adventurous. Uh, like that he would be more like in danger and stuff like that. And I also thought he went back in time, not ahead of time. And I think that's because I know I've seen the Guy Pearce version. I don't remember it at all. But I think a lot of time travel stuff does go back, not forward. So I don't know why I associated it with that. But in this one, he goes forward. So I thought it would be more that it would be more dangerous, I think. And a lot of it is not it, like some of it is, but a lot of it is kind of comfortable, and that was really surprising to me, to be honest. Oh my god! But what didn't work for me, for me it was the language is a little is not a little, it's a lot dry, but it's not that long, so I felt like it was okay to get through it. Um, and but and also when it got to the social commentary, I was a little like, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know how I feel about that. So, but overall, I did enjoy it. I think it is a sort of like if you're gonna go on a sci-fi, fantasy, weird adventure, or even just a science fiction adventure, I would say it is one of the ones that you do want to read because it really is the source. I like going to the source anyway. Sometimes the source, if you go far back enough, it's like really for me, especially with books, I find the earlier writing harder to understand. This one I thought was pretty accessible, and it's not that long, and because the concept itself isn't that foreign anymore, it's not a reality as far as I know. But it's not that, who hasn't heard a story of time travel, right? Whether if you've seen a movie or a TV show or read a book or read a comic, like it's pretty, not even just for people who like science fiction and fantasy. It's very much out there in the world, like this idea of traveling through time. So that part isn't very inaccessible. So it's more like, are you enjoying the story that they're telling about time travel? And it also very much was not about the mechanics of time travel. That's kind of almost glazed over. And it's kind of funny because I think right now we're in a very tech heavy time, so we want to know the science of it, but the science of it hasn't been discovered, so who knows, like his machine, why wouldn't it have worked? We would laugh at it now, so if you're going to do like an updated version of this, you'd have to update the tech if you're going to do some kind of adaptation, or you would have to set it in the time of the book. Like it just really wouldn't work. But I would recommend it if you're looking to do some kind of science fiction, reading adventure, because it really is. I think it is essential. I'm happy that I read it, and it was an okay way to start. It wasn't like that sort of like super exciting or thrilling. Some of the things I found a bit confusing in terms of like where he goes to. So I think that's just sometimes that's just language when a book is, as I said, for me, like reading something from 1895, it's not the first thing I've read from that period, but it's just, the language we use is different, so it's a little more work. But I thought it was well worth it, especially because it was short. And my next question is, I don't know if you can tell that I'm using cue cards, but would I read anything else from this author? This one I totally have to check because, well, I think I will, because there's definitely more books by him on the sci-fi fantasy weird list, including War of the Worlds, The Invisible Man, and The Island of Dr. Moreau are all on the list, and at least one of those is on my those books list as well. I think War of the Worlds, and I very easily could have picked War of the Worlds to start to read by H.G. Wells, and it'll be interesting because there's a social commentary piece. It'll be interesting to see if it's the same social commentary, like it's the same vision or commentary. I'm curious about that. So overall, I thought it was good. I definitely would recommend it as a place to start. It wasn't that hard. It wasn't super exciting. But and it does, for me, the sort of drive of it is a little more, I'm going to tell you a story, and also this is an adventure. So, but I have a couple other things to say, but I'm going to leave them. I'm going to have a little spoiler zone, but before, what's next? The next book that I'm going to talk about in this series, this adventure, maybe I should call it a series. That would be confusing because there's so many series within the series. But is going to be Oversea Understone by Susan Cooper, which is classified as fantasy. Whether or not I think it's fantasy, we'll get to next time. Time Machine is definitely science fiction. There's no doubt about it. But now we're going to head on over to the spoiler zone just for a few thoughts that I want to keep to the people that have actually read the book or don't care about spoilers, because there's just a couple of things that I wanted to hit on about the content, and that mostly, here we go, spoiler, is I didn't super like I had a really hard time envisioning the Morlocks. I did this little drawing, I couldn't find it, of what I imagined the Morlocks to be, and then like I reread the description, and I'm like, that's not really what I thought. I saw really sort of large spiders, and I think they're more like humanoid, and I was really freaked out by the fact that the Eloi, like the people that he makes friends with, are basically food, and that these are the two sort of divisions that humanity becomes, and one feeds the other. It's very disturbing, very disturbing. But and I think that that was one piece of the social commentary. But then the far, far future piece of the social commentary, I think, is for me held a little stronger because it's, it felt more about the insignificance of, that the world will go on long, 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 long time after us. And that's one idea, and so we're just a moment in time. And if he goes a little future in time, wow, look at how much this has changed, it feels so different. And then future in time, there's nothing, that you understand from the present to then. So I thought that was interesting. I love the whole part with like how he wanted to go in the well and see, and I do H.G. Wells, and to find the Morlocks, and to like, he was really, really adamant about it, I guess, because he needed to fix the time machine. But it was, I don't know, there's just, I really love the world of the Enoi and the flowers, and having flowers in their pockets and so on. Like, I wasn't expecting that at all. Like, it had this wonderful, joyous, free element to it, and I couldn't quite figure out how you can communicate with them, like, at all, but, you work things out. But also I think there is something really sad about the whole fact that they didn't treat each other as, no one would ever help each other if something went wrong, or their abilities were so limited that, one thing goes off, like the girl that he sort of falls for goes down the stream, and then, oh, well, there's other people. It's just kind of like, so it's like, for me, it was like the little moments like that were like super freaky. But like, the overall story is kind of like, it just really wasn't what I was expecting. I really thought they'd go back in time and prehistoric time and all that kind of stuff. But the future to be so inaccessible and disturbing was kind of like, what? So overall, I do think it was a good place to start. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the time machine. Did you enjoy it? I was happy that I've been doing more reading generally, like for older works, so that when I got to this, I felt like I had a pretty good comprehension level. Because if I had started with this when I was mostly reading just sort of general fiction, or like, I think I would have been like not figured out what was going on. So anyway, there you go. Time machine. That was long-winded. I'm sorry. I am working on these, and I hope that they are going to be a little shorter and more succinct over time. But you gotta start somewhere. So this time is where I started. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for watching. Oops.